Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Wakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone who teach well. Salutation to you, Akims, preaching the truth and sincerity. Presenting your bodies as living sacrifice. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Shalom to the few sisters listening and learning in silence. Mashiach from Children of the Light Camp. Back at you with another one. And so I probably did this lesson before, but the spirit jumped on me to do it again. I had a friend, not in the truth, but the other day they started playing this, quote unquote, Hebrew music, right? They were singing all of these praise and all of these worship songs in Hebrew, and in the back of my mind, this guy came back up, so I say, let me do another lesson on that, right? Because as we know, right? As we know, if the spirit is on you and if it's showing you, but even the people that's not in the truth in the world can see that the people that's over there are not the true people in the scriptures, right? And so prompt me do another lesson on this guy who is, I'm gonna butcher his name, but fuck him, right? Eliezer Ben Yehuda, who was born, I call him, right? Elazar or Elazar Yitzhak Perlman. So this guy is the for lack of a better word, the creator of the modern day Hebrew language that's spoken in Israel today, right? So let's get to some quick facts about him. So he is of a Russian. He's of Russian Jewish descent. So he's a Russian Jewish linguistics and lexicographer, right? Which is the study of lexicons and the art of compiling dictionaries. Okay, and I'm gonna jump over a little bit, but just stay with me. We're gonna keep this high level or low level. All right. Okay. So this guy, he was born Elazar Yiskin Perlman, but changed his name to Eliezer Ben Yehuda. And I'll tell you right now, right, so this is a modern translation of what would be Bun Yahawada, because the tribe of Judah, when translated to the Hebrew, right, the original Hebrew, not the Monday Hebrew, it would be Yahawada, right? So he's changing his name to Elazar, son of Judah, and when you you could put it in Google and translate it, right? So let's go to Google. Let's just let's say this, right? So Ben Yehuda translate to English as son of Judah, right? But see, this is the modern day Hebrew language, which is not Hebrew at all because it's mostly Dramatic. The language that's spoken by Israelis today is not Hebrew at all. It's more German, and it sounds more German than anything because it comes from people of, right, that's from that descent. And really, this guy is an Edomite pretending to be an Ashkenazi who was masquerading, right, as a Jew. And what is a Jew? A Jew would be it would be the three tribes that remained in Jerusalem, which would be the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, right? So that is who the Jew refers to, those three tribes. All right. So let's get into it. So he immigrated to Jerusalem in 1881 during the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was a Islamic empire, okay? And they came after the Byzantine Empire. So, go and do your homework on that. He is renowned as the lexicographer of the first Hebrew dictionary. So how the hell is it in 1881 that he come up with the first Hebrew dictionary? But okay. And also as editor of the Jerusalem-based Hazvi, right? So I'm assuming this is right. Hasvi was a Hebrew language newspaper published in Jerusalem from 1884 to 1914 by this guy. All right. One of the first Hebrew newspapers published in mandatory Palestine. Okay. Ben Yehuda was the primary driving force behind the revival of the Hebrew language. Right. So we know he's Russian Jewish descent. So let's keep going. Because what did he speak? So his native language is Yiddish. All right, but so let's get into that. Let's open it into a new tab. Yiddish, historically Judeo-German or Jewish German, is a West Germanic language historically spoken by Ashkenazi Jews. And we know the Ashkenazis come from the area of Poland and Russia between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. Okay, and through the truth and the spirit of power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua and the teachers of the elders, the great millstone, we know, right, that these Ashkenazi Jews are really Edomites, right? Pretending to be Ashkenazi, because you can't be Ashkenazi and Jew. They come from two different bloodlines altogether. It's impossible, right? You just can't. Right. So now that we know, right, that the language today being spoken over there is is mostly German, and is relatively new. It's not the language that Yahweh Shah would have spoken, right? It's not the language that Moses would have spoken. It's not the language that Yahweh Shah spoke when he spoke to Paul, right? Because when Yahweh Shah appeared to Paul, he spoke to him in the Hebrew tongue. And I want to say it's in Acts. Let me jump around. Let me go find it. Acts, the 8th chapter. Or was it the 23rd chapter? No, 12th. Acts 12. All right, you know what? Let's go ahead and Google it. Say he spoke in the Hebrew tongue. I just said the Hebrew tongue, KJV, Acts 26. I'm way off. I was going to say 23. Acts 26. Okay, what is it? 26 and 12. Go down 12. Okay, so this is Paul traveling to Damascus, right? And then he gets a vision from Yahushua. Okay, I'm gonna start at 26 and 12. Whereupon, as I went to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priest, at midday, O king, I saw in the way a light from heaven, right? Above the brightness of the sun shining round about me and them which journey with me. Paul's having a vision. And when we were all fallen to the earth, I heard a voice speaking unto me, saying in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? Is it hard for thee to kick against the pricks? And so, right, during this vision, right, that Paul is having, and he's hearing Yahushua speak to him, Yahushua speaking to him in the Hebrew tongue. So the language that Yahushua spoke would not have sound anything like the language that this guy is speaking. So any translations that will come from his style of Hebrew will not have the same vibrations. Because what does it say? Literally, what does it say? And I want to say 1-1. Sirach 1-1. Now, I'm going to skim a little bit, all right? Because I want to get right to the point. Okay, here we go. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. So if you take a word from Hebrew, right, the Hebrew, the Hebrew that was spoken in the ancient world, and translated to another tongue, it doesn't have the same vibration. It doesn't have the same force to it. And so we know that this guy created the modern day language. He created the modern Hebrew language, right, which is relatively new. We know that it doesn't have the same it doesn't have any vibration. There's not any power in any of these translations because this is not of the Hebrew tongue. This is of the German tongue, right? This is something completely different. So now, and again, that goes into the whole, conversation about, what's the name of the Lord, and people arguing the name of the Lord. Well, then do the research for yourself. Because we know if it's not J Christ, then we also know it's not Yeshua. Right? Okay then. So, and then, it goes back to, hey, the spirit has to be dealing with you. But also at the same time, let's just jump into some scriptures to just, highlight some things, right? Because let's go on to 2 Corinthians 2:11. Right? Because Esau being Esau. You know what? Before we go there, let's go to Job 9:24. Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And now this guy, being from 3 different bloodlines, right? That which is an abomination in itself, which can never really be true, right? He's attempting to cover the faces of the judges, right? Because Ben Yehuda, who is Yehuda? You mean Yehuda? Yehuda is the Hebrew translation for the tribe of Judah. It would be Bun Yehuda, son of Judah, right? Okay. So we know it doesn't have the same vibration. So when you say Yeshua or Jesus as opposed to Yahushua, it doesn't have the same Yahushua, it doesn't have the same vibrations. All right. So Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And who's the faces of the he see, and this is how they paint themselves, right? Because now if this is a representation of a son of Judah, then how can a so-called nigger be the son of Judah, right? Or Bun Yahawada, right? Bet. All right, and let's go to just to back that up. Let's go to First Maccabees 3:45. Okay. Nah, I think it's that. Okay. Okay. Now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and aliens kept the stronghold. The heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. All right, let's go and break that down a little bit, right? So now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in and out. So none of the actual tribes, of none of the actual Israelites. The sanctuary, the temple was destroyed. It was torn down. And aliens, who are the aliens? Aliens would be foreigners. So anyone that is foreign, right, to Jerusalem, which would be the Jews of the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levite, kept the stronghold. So foreigners, right, now occupied and controlled Jerusalem and destroyed the sanctuary. The heathen had their habitation in that place. So the heathen made Jerusalem their habitation. And joy was taken from Jacob. Jacob is synonymous with the tribes of Israel. And the pipe with the harp ceased, right? The joy was gone. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Mashpha over against Jerusalem. For in Mashpha was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their head and rent their clothes. And here go the point, because this backs up Job 9:24. And laid open the book of law, wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images. Okay, so I'm gonna come back. Remember, right? The heathen, they laid open the book of the law, where the heathen sought to paint the likeness of their images. So the heathen had the book, okay, and they wanted to put themselves into the book, right? Because what did Job 9:24 say? The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges. How? By painting his likeness. Okay? Same thing that this guy did, right? He didn't take anything. He created this fake Hebrew language based on his Jewish Russian, right? What am I trying to say? Bloodline or whatever, right? Which is mostly German, right? So there you go again. Esau doing what Esau do. But let me go ahead and let's go to Jeremiah 49:10. All right, this is Jeremiah 49:10, and this is the Lord saying, "But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places." And how was the Lord making Esau bare? Man, through Esau technology, because we're able to pour this information up at our fingertips, right? He's uncovering the secret places of Esau, and go and do your homework yourself, right? Because you can't be Ashkenazi and you can't be Jewish, right? Go back to Genesis and read. Where does the Ashkenazi come from? Right? Noah had 3 sons. Which son does the Ashkenazi come from? And which son does the Israelites come from? Okay? So, you can go and do that, for yourself. So it's impossible, right, for this guy to be Ashkenazi and then to be a Jew. But all in all, we know he's a Edomite, right? So Jeremiah 49:10. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled. His children, right? His children is ruined, right? Is ruined, yeah. And his brethren and his neighbor, and he is not. Yeah, man. So just want to do this quick lesson because it did jump on me, and every time they jump on me, I'm gonna do it again because the elders always say repetition, and my teachers and my camp leader always say is repetition as well. So everyone going around believing that the language being over there spoken is the same tongue, right? Because J. Christ would have never called himself J because that didn't exist, and he would have never called himself Yeshua because that translation didn't exist, right? Acts 4:12 tells us what? Acts 4:12. Neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. If you want salvation, there is only one name. It wasn't J, because this didn't exist. It wasn't Yeshua, because that didn't exist. And in Acts 26, what tongue was spoken to Saul? The Hebrew tongue. So, and we know the name to be Yahweh. So, hey, if you want salvation, you better, look, you better call on the right name. Now, if you want money and fame and you want to get you a new car, you can call anything you want. But if you want salvation, you better call on Yahweh, because we know the language that this guy created ain't it. And so with that, I hope you were edified. Until the next time, Shalom and Kwam Yasharallah.